Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS value plays for this week's John Deere Classic. Gonna help you save some salary, take a look at the bottom end of the Draftkings pricing board, and bring you 4 foundational pieces that I'll be playing that are $8,000 and cheaper, to again maybe spend up for an extra stud or two in your lineups, and also help get you some much needed ownership leverage at the same time. So this is meant for large field contests. We're looking for high upside players that not only can go out there, make us a cut, but hopefully crack that top 5, top 10, and be useful for some of those large field tournaments. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing started with our first value of the week. It's a pretty ugly field this week, so keep that in mind when we're going through some of these prices. And from the 8K range down to even some of the top end of the 7K options, it's a real drastic drop off in terms of talent, which leaves players like a Beau Hossler in a dead range of a few guys I think are overrated, right? A newcomer like, let's say, a Gordon Sargent there, Peter Kest, right? The hot topic of the week after going out there top 10ing there last week. But then you've got guys like Beau Hossler who are the same, if not better players than some of the guys around them, but not the recent hot topic, right? In terms of recent form, in fact, Hossler's been losing to the field over his last 12 rounds. So not really getting a lot of attention. I haven't heard anyone talking up Hossler this week, which is leaving him at a nice 6.7% projected owned. So the spreadsheet has been moved around a little bit. So if it's throwing you off a little bit, it's still throwing me off at this point, but tried to move a lot of the more important information over here to the left side. So there'll be some changes on here, but this projected ownership tab right here, column E, is what I want to point our attention to. The rest of it is almost completely negligible to me. He's coming in out of form, right? He's maybe not the best approach player. We don't love that, but what you love about Beau Hossler is that weak field events seem to be where he does his best work, right? Where he'll go out there, he'll finish top 5 to top 10 from time to time. Pebble Beach this year comes to mind, a bunch of those other fall swing events, but he also does well when putting is the #1 key stat. When putting is how you separate yourself from a lot of the 50th or even just like top 25 kind of performances. And this is that exact kind of golf course. It's a birdie fest. It's a relatively simple green complex kind of golf course, which means if you're one of the better technique putters, right, a guy that gains consistently to the field in that category, well, you can kind of count on that out there at the John Deere Classic. So I like that. On bent grass, right, he's also gaining nearly 0.6 strokes per round on shots gained bent. I also like if you take a look at the last 36 measured rounds, right? So if we zoom out a little bit on Hossler, it's really not all that bad, right? He's gaining off the tee, gaining around the green, a neutral with the putter. The putter's really been holding him back, right? Typically, that's like a half a stroke into the positive, if not closer to a stroke in the positive per round, and then a slight negative with the approach play. Some might point that out as a red flag, but that's kind of his baseline. He's not the best approach player. Even when he's spiking for top 10s, top 20s, oftentimes he's about neutral with the approach play or just a marginal gainer. If he's ever going to win on the PGA Tour, he undoubtedly, right, he's going to have to gain on approach, but we don't need a win at $7,600, right? We need a top 10 probably for some of the largest field GPPs, but even for single entry, smaller field kind of stuff, a top 20 and you're pretty satisfied at $7,600. And in considering the field strength here, he has more than enough upside to get there. So for me, it's about the putting. It's the fact that I like him on bent grass. I think that he's a fair price here in this field. And compared to a lot of the guys around him, he is significantly lower owned. I mean, he's half the ownership of a Reeve. He's like almost half the ownership of somebody like a Mark Hubbard. Dylan Wu is nearly twice as owned. Actually, might even be a little bit more than twice as owned as somebody like a Beau Hossler. So in terms of long-term pedigree, I mean, the more and more you would zoom out on these players here, last 50 rounds would be more favorable for a Hossler, and the last 100 round baseline, if you really zoomed out, got an idea of how these guys were playing, Beau Hossler would likely be your #1 player in this range. So that's the way I'm looking at it, especially when he's coming in at the single-digit ownership level. Next up, we've got ourselves Nick Hardy, who's another player kind of being overlooked. And it's surprising to me, especially considering his upside, right? He had the win there at the team event, which I know a lot of people are going to throw to the side, kind of discredit, but that's still an impressive week to go out there and take home the dub. And he hasn't been horrible outside of that, right? It's been a lot of made cuts. He hasn't really done a bunch with the made cuts, but he's been a lot more consistent here this season than he was there early last season. And what I like about Nick Hardy here, and I think a lot of people forget about this, and I don't know if I like it that much, but it's definitely the icing on the cake with Nick Hardy, is that he went to University of Illinois. He's played this course plenty of times. He's played this in competition before playing on the PGA Tour before for the Illinois State Amateur Tournament, and at $7,600, sorry, $7,300, even cheaper than that. He's more than fairly priced, and I thought he'd be like 10-15% owned. In fact, I had him down as a yes on Monday, and I was for certain that he was going to be chalk at this golf tournament, and I told myself I'd play him anyways, right? He's a, good high birdie percentage player. His bent grass numbers are decent too, right? This is his home grass, so you'd imagine that he's pretty comfortable on bent grass, right? Having grown up on the surface, and furthermore has experience here. You take a look at the last 36 rounds. This is what I'm trying to look at here. Nick Hardy, right, gaining with the ball striking, losing around the green, and right around to neutral with the putter. That is kind of a boring stat profile, but it'll get it done, right? Last 12 measured rounds, gaining with the ball striking, gaining half a stroke with the putter, hopefully can maintain that momentum with the flat stick, can go out there, channel into some of those hometown kind of vibes. We've seen it go the other direction, right? That's why you don't want to go crazy with these narratives. It's a narrative. It's just that, right? It's just some story we make up to make ourselves like a play even more. The fact of the matter is the stats on Nick Hardy are extremely favorable, right? Ball striking and putting, which is exactly what you're looking for at a birdie fest like this. And he's a player that routinely shoots 6, 7, 8 under par rounds, right? Now he'll go in the other direction quickly too. He'll have rounds in the mid 70s, so on and so forth. But at a birdie fest, those are the players we want, right? We don't want players that'll bore you to death with 1, 2 under par rounds that might mix in like an even par or 1 over par round, right? On the negative side every once in a while. We want the guys that are capable of getting to 15 to 20 under at this par 71. And Nick Hardy has the firepower to get there. That is certainly the case. Our last 2 plays we'll go into here in a second. I'll remind you guys though, check out my Patreon page if you want access to all of these spreadsheets. Everything that is blacked out is on there. See, we got tee times on there. All of the stats in terms of recent rounds, right? Last 12 here, last 36, last 12 for all 4 categories over here. We've got event history, recent form, my key stats of the week where you can see exactly how I'm trying to identify my top plays. All of that posted on there. Prop stuff, showdown stuff throughout the weekend for $10. It's a great value. Put a lot of time, a lot of effort into it every single week. And, obviously these videos will give you a good idea of my process, the sort of players I'm looking at. But if you want the nitty gritty, you want to know everything that I'm doing week in and week out, it is the perfect place to get that access. So check it out down below if that's something that sounds interesting to you. But for our last 2 plays, they're all 4 going to be in the 7K range. So no real 6K options that I feel super great about this week. But you can save a bunch of salary with a $7,200 Carson Young. And he's been super chalk the last like 4 or 5 weeks. In fact, like the last 2 months on tour, even like a month and a half ago, this guy was coming in like 8% owned when he was projected to be in like the 1.5 to 2% range. There was that narrative of him shooting, I think it was like a 60 for one of the qualifying rounds. It might have been for like, I don't want to say the PGA Championship, but maybe it was a US Open like first qualifying. He went out there and absolutely lit up the golf course. He was chalk that week, played well. So the next week he was also chalk. He played pretty well. And he's been on quite the recent run of form, right? We take a look at his stats here. You'll see 52nd, 15th, he did have the 1 missed cut, but like 43rd, 21st, before that, it was just like made cut, made cut, made cut. He was in the 6K range for a lot of those too, and people rode him, and the chalk really just never went away. He was like 15% owned, at least 10% owned for like 5, 6 straight golf tournaments. Now he's only 9.4%, which you may say, oh, that's still 9.4% owned. Compared to where he's been at the last few weeks, that's not that bad, especially in this kind of field. Honestly, if you told me a few weeks ago that we'd get like a 9% Carson Young at just $7,200 at the John Deere, I'd be all about it, right? But considering he's gone, what was it, like 52nd, 15th missed cut, I don't know if the steam is as much there, and mostly because of the shots gained metrics. And I saw this and I was like, oh wow, this is why no one wants to play him. He's losing off the tee all of a sudden, right, and losing on approach. That's because of that missed cut and then the 52nd, right? The 52nd, he hardly made the cut. It was like last place over that event. The missed cut kind of like, hurts your performances there. It's really a little bit of an overreaction, right? Because if you take a look at the last 36, right, he's still gaining with the ball striking. He's still gaining with the putter. This is why everyone wanted to get there. So I think if you're zooming in too much and you're overreacting to this sample size, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? The guy is coming in. He has a 15th 2 starts ago, right? He made the cut the last time out, and people are going out there and completely dogging the guy. If we get a sub 10% owned Carson Young, I'm going to be a very happy guy tomorrow morning. So we'll have to see. Hopefully the steam doesn't come in here on Wednesday as people see Carson Young at just single-digit ownership. But considering that he's also a bent grass putter too, you can see gains over half stroke per round on bent grass. I definitely like the play. Our last value this week is going to be Cameron Champ. And, you know, I've been guilty of talking this guy up before. There's been a few times that he's flopped and once, twice that he's come through. And sure, he's flopped more than he's come through for us, but we're also taking this guy at like 5-10%, right? So like we kind of know what we're getting ourselves into. And when he pays off in bunches, because when Cam Champ has his game, kind of like Cam Young at top, right, who I'm also taking a shot on this week, usually gets himself into contention, and he's not going completely unowned here, right? I got him at 1.3% projected owned, but compared to some of the other guys around him, like Justin Lauer, who's nearly like 4 or 5 times higher owned, you can't tell me that he has lower upside. In fact, he has much higher upside than I would say everyone else around him. Like within like $200, $300, you can't find me a higher upside player. I mean, like even Nick Hardy, guys like Carson Young, throw Will Gordon into there, who I really like, who's like a $400 more expensive. Cameron Champ has more upside than all of them. Cameron Champ could easily win this event if he has his best stuff. And I say easily, right? Considering that he's like on his form, like coming in world-class sort of event. But if he has his best stuff, like he wins this golf tournament. I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make, right? Like if he actually has that spike performance, a lot of the other guys in this range can't say that, right? Their spike performance is gaining maybe 10, 12 strokes to the field. Cameron Champ's spike performance is 18 to 20 strokes gained to the field because we've seen it before, right? He's gone out there and just randomly spiked for wins. What I like about Cameron Champ is that he's trending in the right direction. In the past, right, I've just played him blindly before, but the ball striking is starting to come around. This is a 36-round baseline, right? This is a relatively wide net that we're looking at here, and he's gaining half a stroke per round off the tee, and he's right around a neutral with the approach play, which you may say, oh, but he's a slight negative, right? He's losing 0.1 strokes per round. That's good for Cameron Champ. He's used to losing like close to a stroke per round, sometimes even over a stroke per round with the approach play from tournament to tournament. If he can even just be a neutral with that, he can spike with the putter, and you can see he's losing half a stroke per round there. He's maybe not the most consistent with the flat stick, but you'll see him go out there, gain 3 strokes putting in a round. You'll see him go out there, gain 8, 9 strokes putting in an event. Like when he won the 3M Open just a few years ago there, he's got it in the bag. So it's a flyer play. You're not taking him in more than 10% of your lineups, right? Let's not go crazy there. You're probably playing him in closer to like 5, maybe 7% of your lineups, right? If you're being a sane individual with your exposure this week. But considering the upside and just how weak this field is, even if he doesn't have his true ceiling performance, let's say he has just like getting into contention kind of performance, in this kind of field, that's a top 3, perhaps even winning the golf tournament. So just these high upside sort of players, I'm going to be scattershotting down here towards the bottom end of the 7s, top end of the 6s, to try and go out there, perhaps get that top 5, top 10 we're looking for. Alrighty guys, that is all I've got for the value plays this week. Before you hop on out of here, go ahead, smash that like button for me, and also go ahead and comment down below your top value of the week priced $8,000 and below on DraftKings. For me, there's a few guys I could choose from. I could say a Cameron Champ to be a little bit cute, but let's just go with Beau Hossler. It's a boring play. I know the form is not the best, but the guy loves tearing apart these easy golf courses, and it just feels like he's kind of due for that at this point. So I'll go with Dumpy Beau. Let me know your thoughts down below as well. Make sure to check out the live stream tonight too. As per usual, that'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern, talking weather, chalk, DFS strategy, props. Again, all of your questions, just whatever you need to know to go out there and have yourself a week at the John Deere. Let's get after it. I know a lot of people are taking this week easy with the holiday, the fact that it's a weaker field. Well, that means that there's a little bit of extra opportunity for us to exploit. So I'll be grinding at it. I'll be trying to make lineups here all day and ready to go out there and have ourselves a week. Best of luck, and I'll catch you guys at the stream later.